I can't understand why you'd spend the extra time with doing legislation when you don't actually need to do it. You know,
So that's about halfway.
Do you think there is room to reduce the number of consenting authorities in the country, or are there potentially other solutions?
Yeah, I'm very interested in having a system that's nationally consistent. We've got one building code. Obviously there's some different geographical conditions, but a lot of the stories that I hear from people who are trying to build houses, whether it's the end user, the mum or dad, as we classically refer to them, or the developers and the builders themselves, they find the frustration of dealing with different councils across the country with different standards, each with their own different ideas about the liability and the risk that they're prepared to take on if they maybe consent something that's a bit out of the box in terms of different products or a different process, or maybe looks a bit different in terms of design. So we want to remove those roadblocks, and if we can have a more centralised or certain system by having maybe fewer building consent authorities, and that could be a win for all concerned.
Okay. Tell me about your overseas certified sort of replacement plan. Have you got scoped that out?
Yeah, the idea is to improve competition in relation to building products. So that means that if there are products that are used in New Zealand or overseas that already meet our standards, or perhaps overseas standards, as long as they are higher or equivalent to our current ones, because we think we can actually get a win in terms of improving competition and therefore competing on price and getting the best deal for the New Zealand consumer without lowering the standards. There's a whole world of products out there, and we're determined to tap into that.
So it's about removing roadblocks to those kind of use of products. And are there any other initiatives you got in play in that space?
Yeah, well, we've talked about building products, but one of the initiatives that we're quite keen to use as a test case for opening up the system to trusted providers being able to do the work in a more efficient and productive way is what we've talked about, granny flats. So not having resource consents or even building consents needed to do something that's relatively low risk. We're literally tapping into existing infrastructure, be it pipelines and other supporting infrastructure where housing already exists, to provide something that's quite small by definition, up to 60 square metres, but to allow that freedom for families or perhaps a business environment such as a farm to have workers on board and so on. So again, not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve the whole housing supply and affordability crisis, but it's going to take a step in the right direction and provide some good for some New Zealand families.
You've been calling it quick and dirty, I think. Granny flats as being one of those. Who came up with the granny flat idea as a name? Yeah,
well, granny flats is what sometimes referred to colloquially, and it's possible, of course, to criticise that from the point of view, are we saying it's only elderly people? Of course not. Sometimes it might be students or teenagers who are still living at home but want a bit more privacy or a bit of distance from their parents, or vice versa. But there are other scenarios too where it might make sense for homestays or boarders. So really we're trying to say for everyone who needs a roof over their head that can't currently afford it, we're trying to be a bit creative, provide some solutions that don't take a lot of time or additional costs. So that's where we're trying to get wins in the system. We're consulting on the detail at the moment, but the current conception is, single level dwelling of up to 60 square metres, and just the one on a plot of land that already has a so-called major dwelling, or a primary dwelling. Now there's other places we could take the policy. For example, people have raised with us if you could have a large number of small units on a single plot of land, what might be referred to as papakainga housing in the Māori world, and therefore not granny flat policy so much as kuia or kaumatua policy. So that's a different step, or a step in a different direction than we've currently got on the table, but the philosophy is the same. We want to make it easier and more affordable and quicker for people to build in this country.
MBR is offering a special July-only deal, $399 for a year's subscription, so you'll be able to find me on mbr.co.nz.